Hi, welcome to Papa's Workshop. Today we're outside and we're building a gate. And the gate itself is not hard to do, but for me, with the heat index at over 100 degrees, it took me several days to be able to do it. But I want to show you how we did it, so let's get started. The first thing I'm doing, I'm taking the 2x4s and cutting 4 of them to length that will go on the vertical side. This can be really any measurement that you want. I chose to use the same distance between the runners on the fence itself to be able to have it all tie in and look the same. Then I changed my measurement and I cut 4 boards to be able to span the horizontal distance. One of the things that I find interesting is that even though this is, well, this one's actually bent, I'm going to have to straighten that one. So even though this measures exactly 3.5 inches, this 2x4 is actually a little bit more than 3.5 inches, which means that it does not slide in here very well. It gets tight right there and will not allow me to go any further. So what I'm going to have to do is rip down these 2 2x4s that go on the hinge side just a little bit so that that will fit in there. The other thing that I want to show you is when this 2x4 slips into place, there's actually going to be a weld joint right here that's actually going to keep it from sliding all the way down to the bottom. So I'm actually going to trim off the edge of the 2x4 so that it'll fit easily into that slot. I want it to fit all the way down to the metal parts. Now on the other piece, this has a nice straight smooth corner for exact 90 degrees, so I don't need to trim that one. The weld is actually on the inside, which would not affect the placement of the 2x4. And if I look at these very old ones, it is set up exactly the same way. And on this one, you can see again, I'm going to have to trim that one. Now I set the saw up so that I would actually remove about 1/8 of an inch. That's all that was necessary to give ample room for this 2x4 to slip into the slot. And there was 2 2x4s that needed this treatment done to it so it would properly fit. No fancy measurements needed. I just wanted to cut off just a little corner of the 2x4 so it would not be in the way of that weld joint. And there we go. Now that fits all the way down. That's what I want to be able to have happen. So I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to start to assemble this and screw it together. To be able to put this together, I'm using a green deck screw that's 1 5/8 inch long to be able to assemble this gate. Now because these are so old, there was a little bit of a spring to that, and I'm just going to go ahead and clamp this to get it to align better and take that out. There we go. That'll hold it in place while I go ahead and screw it. Okay, and I'll do the same thing to the other end. That's perfect. Now this one is aligned exactly the way it needs to be, so I don't need to put a clamp on this one. Okay, the first side's done. Now again, because of how these were welded, I don't need to cut the ends off of that 2x4. It'll just be able to slide right in and I'll be able to screw it in place. So in a matter just of a few minutes, I have both gates that are completely finished and ready to be installed. So I will now take it outside and we'll get started with the installation. Okay, it's a hot day today. It's literally 105 heat index in the shade. So I'm not going to be able to do but little pieces of this at a time. But I want to be able to set up and be able to put in this gate today. And the first thing I want to be able to do is make it where it's level across this opening. This is the height that I want to do it. And these hinges are 4 inches. So to be able to help me out, I'm just going to be able to, I marked the line right here. I'm going to come down 4 inches. That's where I want it. To be able to help hold this up while I screw it in place, I'm just going to put a little scrap piece of wood here and screw it in on that 4-inch line down. And that's going to be able to hold it while I put the gate on. So that's actually all I need to do is just the one screw. And then from there, I'm going to be able to set that right up on it, and that scrap piece of wood will actually hold the weight. So let me go ahead and get some screws and screw in this hinge. And the other thing I want to do is I want this line to be level going across. So I'm just going to set the level up here, and I'm going to put just a 2x4 underneath it just to get a little bit of the extra extension. Make sure that this is actually level. Right there is perfect, and I'll mark my line. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this gate on. I'm just going to set it up there, right where it needs to be. And I'll go ahead and put the first screw in. Do the same thing at the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and put all the screws in at this point. And now I can go ahead and remove that little square block, and I'll put it over on the other side. There we go. And now we're ready to go ahead and put up the gate. Go ahead and get the screw into the bottom, have it in place. Remove this one, and the gate itself is installed. All we got to do now is put the slats on it, but that's going to be after a while. I'm going back inside to take a rest break. All right, let's see how this closes. There we go. Woo, not bad at all. Let's get back inside where it's a little bit cooler. One of the things I want to do is put in a block, both at the top and the bottom, to add some additional support for this gate. Now what I'm going to do is just measure, and that's actually 4 1/8. So I'm going to make a note of that. Then I'm going to measure down at the bottom, and that one's 4 inches. So I'm going to go inside now and cut those. These 2x4 blocks will actually add a lot of support to this gate, and that's what I need to be able to have it so it doesn't sag over time. Now I'm taking just a scrap pressure treated 2x4 and I'm measuring my 4 1/8 of an inch. Then I'm going to flip it around and measure to the other side my 4 inches to be able to get the 2 measurements that I need. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut the 2 blocks. Now to put these blocks in, I'm just going to use a 2-inch screw to be able to secure them in place. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now that this is in, now we can actually start looking at putting the slats in. And this is a little bit wider of an opening than just one slat. Now, one of the easiest things is I could just put another one on top. I don't want to do that. I want to actually put it side by side. So what I'm going to do is just put this one in place, and then I'm going to put the other one on top of it, and then just scribe the line. And then I'll take that into the shop and we'll cut it and we'll come back and install them. Now on the other side, I have a much smaller gap and I need to fill in this as 2 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and cut one down, the 2 3/4, so it'll fit into this area. So back to inside the shop. It's a little bit cooler in there too. Okay, after taking some measurements, I can actually use this one slat and get both pieces out of it. Because on this first side here, that's my actual measurement. And then I'm going to have a piece wide enough to take care of the other side. That's going to work out great. So I've got my line already. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one, and then we'll set the fence up and cut the second one. Time to go ahead and put this first slat up. And this is going to be the height that I'm going to measure everything else off of. And I'm going to put it just below the foundation line for the brick line, because I am going to pour concrete in here, and that's going to be another video later on. But this is going to be the point that I think I'm going to use. So I'm going to put that right there. And then this one will go into place. And that looks good. So now I'm going to go ahead and put a string line across the top and add in the rest of the slats. I do want to do one last check to make sure that this is level across the top. And I'm just going to put that 2x4 right there. Set that in there. And yeah, that is, there we go. That is good and level. Now then, I'm going to go ahead and set up the string line. And I've shown that before. But what I do on the one end is just make a loop like this. I just make a loop, stick my fingers in there, and it makes what I call a lark head. I know there's some other names out there for it, but I've always been taught that this was called a lark's head. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on this one end. And we'll pull that tight. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a nail on the other side. And we'll tighten this up. And then we'll stretch the string across that. And what I do on this is just real simple. I just take it and twist this and then slip it over. And from there, pull it tight. And that's all that's really required. And that gives me a nice straight line to be able to work with. The next thing that's going to bring this up to where it touches the line, and it's right against the hinges, and I'll go ahead and nail that in. And I'm going to continue this process all the way across until the gate is done. Now, one of the things that I like to do periodically is check, and especially to begin with, to see if this is plumb. And that actually looks good. So I'm going to go ahead now and I can nail the rest of this in. Alright. Same thing over here. We'll slide it up so that it touches. Put it right next to the board and we're ready to shoot it in. And we'll need to trim that down actually about 1/2 inch to be able to fit in there. And with it trimmed, you'll never even know that this one's a little bit smaller. So let me go inside to the table saw and I'm going to trim this one down and I'll be right back. Now I'm going to set the table saw up to take off 1/2 inch and that should fit in there just fine. So right there's my measurement and we'll get that cut. Now the other thing that I want to do is on these little dog ears nice and long, this one's now short. So I just want to be able to go ahead and put that back in so it looks the same. And like I said, from a distance, and quite frankly I'd say majority of the people up close will never know that this board is actually a little bit smaller. I'm just going to take the jigsaw, we'll cut that off. Now the true test. Let's close the gate again. And let's put that slat up there and see if it's going to fit. There we go. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Check my height. And we'll just nail it in. And now we have a gate that's not going to sag and it's going to last for many years. So that should work out real well. All I got to do now is just decide what kind of hardware that I want to have to be able to secure it. I think it's time to go back inside and get out of this heat because this humidity is really coming back and I just can't handle the heat. So closing the gate and until next time. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.